Have you ever felt alone in developing your personal dreams and achieving your life's legacy? As a society, no matter our net worth, we can struggle with defining, developing, and executing our legacies because we can lack the confidence as well as clarity. In my Legacy series, I showcase various speakers who share their personal experiences on how they are approaching and completing their legacies. These examples can be helpful to you in understanding what others have gone through so you can have positive role models to learn from. I hope you enjoy this conversation and it inspires you to take the next steps. My name is Angelina Carlton. I'm the founder of Legacy Planning, a boutique coaching and advisory firm based in Beverly Hills, California. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Matthias. He is a former corporate executive who has lived in 15 countries, from Asia to Australia, as well as traveling to many more. He's also an adventurer who has crossed the Pacific Ocean on a sailing yacht battling 5 major storms and a hurricane. He has competed in Ironman triathlon races and became an Ironman certified coach. But his biggest adventure was the one on the inside, in discovering the fears, the insecurities, as well as the true potential within. Today, Matthias coaches people all around the world as he combines sailing with coaching. He believes in dedicated empowerment and re-energizing his clients through yachting trips in Greece. Welcome, Matthias.
Hello, Angelina. Thanks for
Hi,
having me.
this is delightful. I'm so
Great to
happy.
be here.
Thank you. So, did I miss anything in your background? I know that the 15 countries.
Yeah. A lot of them
Okay.
in Asia. Yeah. And I've been to California as well
Oh,
in
okay,
my
good.
early 20s. Yeah,
Okay.
up in Tahoe. I was a ski instructor up in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, Tahoe's beautiful. Yes.
It's very nice, yeah. I love the lake down there.
So, would you share what inspired you to get into coaching and what specifically do you get to coach others on?
Yeah, sure, of course. So as you mentioned before in my introduction, I've been in corporate for quite some time. In my most senior position, I was based in Singapore, and I was looking for a hotel company in finance and business support for our hotels in Asia Pacific. So I was looking after hotels from Australia all the way up to Japan. And during that time, I had teams reporting to me. I had probably teams of up to 100 people, if we take the entire region. And I've always been there to help and support people. My initial move to Asia in 2005, I was hired at the time to basically, work myself out of a job. I normally went into hotels and I trained a local person in order to take over from me. And after 2-3 years, I would move on. So that's how I moved from one country to the next country. And as life continues and goes on, you have your goals change and you become inspired by various things in life. I ended up leaving the world of hospitality. I wanted to do my own thing, and I ended up becoming in a way a professional sailor. And I used a lot of the ways and means that I learned in my corporate career to help others achieve their goals and dreams. What happened was that when I met people along my journey, a lot of them were inspired by what I did. And I've been like on the road since I was 19. When I was 19, I left Austria, I went to Australia, and that's a whole. I could probably just entertain you for an hour with that kind of story. But what was happening with coaching was that I ended up just helping a lot of people, and they gave me this kind of feedback, and then I met somebody who was a psychotherapist, and she told me, and I was helping her in her life. And I mean, it was by coincidence. I wasn't planning. We just met by coincidence during one of my trips on a sailboat. And she said, I should look into this in more detail. At the time, we were speaking more about therapy work, like becoming a therapist or a psychologist. Mm-hmm. And through research, I then found the coaching as a profession. And so what I was lacking, I realized by attending a couple of courses in coaching, was that I had a certain skill set, but I didn't have a toolbox to use my skill set to help other people. So I basically acquired that toolbox by learning from some of the big names in. Yeah. So basically, learning from them.
Okay.
They equip the students with a toolbox so you can go
Okay.
out and help people. Because what makes every coach unique, or every coaching relationship, is really who am I as a coach and who is
Yes.
my client as a client, right?
Yes.
So I'm not the perfect fit for a lot of people, but there are a lot of people I'm the perfect fit for, and they are the perfect fit for me.
Yes.
Also, not every client is my perfect fit. So there's people, I speak to,
Okay.
and some of them resonate very well with who I am, and others don't. So there are, very various kind of coaches out there, and I think for people, they might resonate with one, and they might not resonate with the other one. So it's up to every one of us to find the ideal person
Sure.
to speak to.
And to keep searching. What would you say that you get to specifically coach people on? High performance, results?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I'm concentrating on two niches. One of them is where I basically come from, the corporate executive,
Okay.
who I was a finance director and a CFO later in my career. So at the time, I had a lot of I think I worked for 5 CEOs and managing directors in my life.
Okay.
And I realized how they came to me and they spoke to me about what it feels like to be on the top
Ah.
of the business, of the company, right? And as you grow, you from a senior executive into like being at the top,
Mhm.
there is, they have a lot of pressure on their shoulders from either shareholders, from owners of businesses, and also from the employees of your company. Everyone kind of wants something from you. Some people, they want to have attention, others want result. You have your quarterly earnings report, you have your quarterly meetings, and there's just so much pressure to. And a CEO and a managing director, they rarely can, who do they go to speak about what is going on inside of them about all of this?
Right. Everybody
You
wants a
can't
piece
go
of them.
to. Yeah. And if you go back to your own employees, you might lose a bit of credibility because everyone expects you to know what you're doing in this job. Neither can you go to your shareholders and ask them for advice, right?
Of course.
And I always do these analogies with sailing, because I'm also a captain, and so when you are the captain of your own ship, on your side, that you can relate to, that understands you, and because through my finance background and having gone through many quarterly reviews, quarterly meetings, reporting to shareholders, to owners, I kind of understand what these people go through in
What
their
it is to,
professions.
sure, what it is to walk in their footsteps.
Yeah.
Yes. And I can,
And the second, sorry.
I was just going to say, what I've heard from executives and people who are founders and owners in those positions is the intense loneliness, like you had just mentioned. Who can they talk to
Yeah.
where they're allowed to let their guard down and say, I don't have all the answers?
Yeah.
Compared to keeping that mask on.
Yeah. So that's kind of who I relate to, and the second part is people that have, they want to go follow a similar path for what I've done in my life. You want to experience, but they're being held back by an inner conflict, fear, anxiety. They don't often, I need the money, I can't do this because I need to, blah 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 blah. And so there can be, all sorts of people. Can be a teenager. I'm working at the moment with a teenager, and I'm also working with artists. I have like an art background. I used to be a drummer in my teens, and I relate really well to musicians and the pressure of a musician.
Sure.
And just working with your inner game, but also with the outer game of people around you, and people that feel being judged. How your inner talk, work a bit on self-love and
redoing those dialogues and how we talk to ourselves.
reframing. I think it's very important because we often our biggest inner critic. Like we constantly judge ourselves, right? Like the entire day we walk around and we're criticizing ourselves for everything we do. So it's really
You're
great,
not doing that right. Yes. Yeah.
So, and it's great for people also, that's why I hire a coach, because you can, you can speak to them about all of this, and we don't judge. We're very unbiased. We just
Yes.
listen
And
to them, and
encourage.
then we reflect back to them. Yeah. And we
Mhm.
talk to them about, what is going on in your mind all day long. Just tell me, and let's try to reframe it and put a positive spin on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to echo something you just shared before we move on to the next thought, which is it's
Yeah.
interesting because when you're on a sailboat, the lessons and the decisions are instantaneous in the physical 3D world.
Yeah.
Yes, and then if one translates that into the corporate business world, it's not as if you're going to drown, but it's still the decisions impact people's lives. It's just maybe not as tangible when you're out on the Mediterranean and you have to go starboard and make a decision that moment.
Yeah.
Yes, with the pressure on your shoulders and your crew, depending on your leadership and your judgment, and can you make the right call that moment? Yes. Yeah, I think it's invaluable to be able to have a coach and an advisor to talk to someone. And one of the statistics that I mentioned, it's also in my company's executive summary, is I think business coaching pulled in $10 billion in revenues recently, but it was 900% more for the technology industry. So I think that humanity needs to be able to have these inner conversations, and also to be able to find a guide that they trust to lead them forward, so we don't just fall back into the conveniences of technology or only. We can also go on that, what you called that inner journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's certainly a lot happening in that field. And let's take, all the benefits of what technology offers us, but also, we need to bring the humans along with it. I think technology is so fast, it's progressing so fast, and a lot of people, they feel left behind. So there is, maybe through some, I know, pro bono coaching or just the ability to reach out to people and take them along on this trip is really important.
Yes. So what would you say are the top 3 values that you get to honor by what you do today?
I mean, with my clients, what I'm looking for is a willingness for them, to play. Let's put it this way. One of my mentors, he kind of, uses the term play. It's basically, you want this, you want to play, you want to come out, you let go of your mask. Like we often, when we grow up, we are putting on a mask and we play a role. We're like actors in our own lives. We want to be seen by other people in a certain way, but deep inside of us there is something that wants to come out. And when I work with somebody, I want them to recognize that fact and be open in it, because otherwise there's no point in doing any work together. So that's one of them. Then I'm trying to create a safe space. So it's a trusting relationship, in particular with the executive coaching. I think people, they need to be able to trust me 100% that whatever we speak stays, between the two of us.
Right.
So that trusting relationship I always had. I mean, as a finance executive, I think, and CFO, this is something which everyone in the company can, they need to be able to trust you in what you do. You hold up, or you hold all the numbers together, and that's, that's a characteristic everyone needs to have in the position that I used to have. And also as a coach, that's a given. And the third thing I would say, is just I want to have the ability to provide value to my coaches and my clients. If I see, like, I'm not somebody who keeps a client just for the sake of having somebody, maybe earning money with it.
Right.
So if I can't provide any value, there's no point in having a relationship. It's as important to me to provide value as it's probably for the coachee.
Right. To see the results.
It needs to be an interaction. Yeah. And it's also, I want my coaches to see really that they've leveled up. They went up in their lives, in their careers, no matter what. And and spread the word as well. I want to have good reviews, I want to have good testimonials, I want people to be inspired by our conversations. And if I can't do this, and you normally realize this quite fast, once you start speaking to somebody, you realize, can I provide something to you or not? Mm-hmm. And yeah, so that's another aspect that I would say, which is really, really important for me.
So the value of contribution.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. So what I'm hearing back is the value of contribution, as well as the value of safety, so that there can be that bubble of protection where somebody can just tell the truth compared to telling you partially the truth. And then how do you guide them through to the next transformation that they need to have? Yes.
Yeah, it's an important aspect, because as a coach, you're listening, like you're asking questions, like normally some generic questions, and then you listen to what the client tells you, and you're listening also what he or she doesn't tell you, right? And as you listen for that, you're asking maybe quite specific pointed questions on the area you feel the person isn't yet, going there, right? But the person, it's like a very thin, fine line where, you can't overstep. Otherwise, they're gonna block and they're just gonna walk away.
Too vulnerable. Yes, it will feel too vulnerable. Yes.
Yeah. So you kind of need to create that space first,
and get a
where
sense.
people, they feel comfortable, they feel trusted, they feel that they can open up to you, and then you can go where you feel you need to go in order to achieve the goals that you have established together as part of the coaching conversation.
Yes. I might add the third value. It sounds like you also have a value around fairness, so that if you can provide the value, you will. And if you can't, you're not going to just drag them along. Yeah. I wanted to highlight that point. I was having margaritas the other night with a group of ladies, and one of the ladies was about to transfer a multi-million dollar house, a multi-million dollar financial portfolio, and so forth, to her daughter. She doesn't trust her daughter completely for various different reasons. Her daughter's kind of next gen in that age bracket. And I remember asking her, well, how come you how come you won't retain a coach or an advisor? And I remember her answer back to me was, well, I had one and it didn't turn out well. And so, yes. So it's very interesting that you've brought up that point, because I think it's important to give voice to, so that people know that they still are at choice, and they have, that transparency with a coach to, not feel like they're trapped just because they have a problem. Yes. That a coach is not there to exploit their weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel that a lot of coaches, they offer complimentary discovery calls. So normally there's like a no risk way for people to figure out, like, does a coach resonate with me well or not? Now, not always will you realize this in the first moment. But then, you look at the reviews of the coach and what other people say about the coach, and hopefully the collaboration is going to be, beneficial to a client.
Yeah, and it's also, please go ahead.
Yeah, and we wouldn't. We as a coaching community, we need to really work hard to establish certain standards.
Yes.
That, there is no exploitation going on of any clients.
Yes. Thank you for speaking into that. Yes. Okay. So what touches your heart the most about coaching and or receiving a great coaching session? Because it very much is a highly how do I pronounce it? Experiential experience. It's highly emotional. It's you can feel it in your soul when there is a shift. So what touches your heart the most about coaching?
Well, when you see other people, when you speak to them about something and they say, this is what I want to do in life, but at the moment, I don't dare to go there. There are too many mindsets, too many thoughts that hold me back from going there. And when you help them to analyze those and help them to move up the ladder, or move up to the next level, and you see how something, just kind of a shadow falling off them, and they suddenly, their eyes start to sparkle, and also when you figure out with somebody's superpower, a lot of people, they might have a job that works somewhere, but they don't work in their superpower. They're either not aware of it, or they don't dare to be there.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, one of the benefits of Corona was that a lot of people, they started to look at, you know, what they've been doing in the past. Is it really what they enjoy? And a lot of people, okay, they lost their jobs. Others, you know, had, you know, financial pressure. So there was also a time, you know, sometimes you need to go through these hard times also to reassess where we are in life. And yeah, I mean, this is, you know, something where you as a coach can really assist or help somebody else. And if you see somebody, you know, move forward in their life, then this is a really, really rewarding work.
Right. So they don't get
Yeah,
stuck or stay stuck in the pain of being stuck.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Because it's interesting what happens if somebody does get stuck, no matter what age they are or profession. There's such a shame and an embarrassment that can come with that, because if we loop back for a moment to the executives, it's, I'm supposed to have all the answers.
yeah,
I can't show that I don't.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So it's go ahead, please.
I know, and there's something which I, you know, felt myself, is that when you sacrifice, like as you go through life, you know, some ideas pop into your head. What do you want to do in life? And if you sacrifice those ideas and you just concentrate on making money, let's put it this way, like you want to be, you know, I don't know, make money, become rich, you know, buy this, buy this, buy that.
Mhm.
And I've got nothing against money, you know, we only need money.
Right.
But as you sacrifice too many of your inner desires and wishes, what you want, then there's some debt building up inside of you, and that kind of, you know, it increases and it compounds over a lifetime, and so you end up, you know, feeling a lot of pressure that you never ventured out, you know, and felt, you know, this liberation of just doing what you want to do, you know, for once. It doesn't mean that you have to give everything up. You don't need to completely change your life.
Right.
Not everyone is able to do it or like can afford it financially, but at least sometimes, you know, you can step out of your normal world and just dare to do something which no one else has done before. And I see it always when people come on a sailboat, when I do like maybe longer trips, longer journeys, and they just go away from everywhere. You know, they don't see the normal world. They just see the sunrise, the sunsets and everything like that. And they just, you know, they bloom. You know, you can see how they just become so empowered and re-energized.
Yes. In those ordinary moments that that life offers, the amazing moments that
Yeah,
life offers, that,
yeah.
yes, that can't be purchased at the Porsche dealership. If not, they'd be purchasing those moments as much as they can. And then it seems
Yeah,
almost like counterintuitive that I got to just see that sunset or that sunrise, that thing that's free, that the moment I could step outside of my comfort zone. Yes. Good, good. So that's what touches
yeah,
your heart. Thank you. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing that. Because I think it allows someone who's watching or listening to understand what it is that inspires coaches to do this work, because it is kind of diving in deep to, you know, what it is like to walk in their footsteps. And thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay.
you're
Anything
welcome.
else on
I
that
enjoy
subject?
this.
Oh, good, good.
Maybe something comes along, you know, the conversation we're gonna have. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Because I imagine with sailing, I had sailing lessons when I was a teenager on the Atlantic, and it is a very visceral five sensory experience that is,
yeah.
it's better than a roller coaster at the amusement park. There's the smell of the
What,
ocean, all of it.
yeah. When I saw, you know, I also race, and I normally what I do is I have, you know, people come on a race boat. I train them a bit, or sometimes I just do like easy races, not like super, you know, crazy racing. And what I see is how I've got a couple of friends, you know, they're entrepreneurs, and when they come on the boat, you know, they just let everything go. They just want to do like one simple task, like, you know, pulling a rope, and they're just super happy with this one single focused task, and that allows them also to forget whatever else is going on in their lives. Now, so you basically can use, sailing in various ways, just to work with your brain, with your mind, to shut down everything that normally, would concern you, or, put some sorrows into your life. And
The
once you're
things
in a
we can't
boat,
control, the problems
yeah,
we can't control. Yeah.
yeah. And so you can use it for both, but you can also use it to re-energize, to find a moment of peace, a moment of where you can go inside. You have a couple of deep breaths, or you do some meditation, and it's really perfect environment to just calm down, kind of reboot your system. Now, if you use the analogy of a computer, you just shut down the computer and you reboot it, um and that's just a very powerful experience,
Yes.
for a lot of people.
I think
Now,
that
you don't have to go sailing for that. I mean, you can also
right.
do it in a one-to-one session, like either in person or over Zoom.
Right.
But sailing just assists, or at least, it meant that various types of sailing as well. You can go out in calm seas, or you can go in a storm. It's very different experience. So what we're talking about is, we're going out in fairly calm seas, hopefully normally, we sail, but it's also, once you're able to switch off the engine and you just hear the sound of the people love that. So we're always looking a bit, obviously we can't control the weather, but in Greece, the nice thing is, and it's similar in the Caribbean, in the season there, winds are normally quite stable. So it's that's why a lot of people come here to sail, because it's such a beautiful environment to be in, and
Absolutely.
the conditions are great for
teaching, coaching principles, and getting people out of their ruts. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you could connect sailing with human development, what might you say?
So there are a couple of analogies, like one I mentioned earlier, about the you're captain of your own ship, which basically means, as I go through life, at some point in time, a lot of people, hopefully, I don't think your viewers, but there are people that keep on blaming others for whatever happens in their life. So once you recognize that, don't blame anyone else for whatever happens in your life. So let's say once you go out at sea, no matter what happens, you need to deal with it, and there's no one to blame. If your engine shuts down because it didn't change the oil, as an example, it's not the mechanic's fault. It's like you just forgot, probably, and it's human to forget stuff. So sometimes things in life, they just don't go well, but what it allows you is also to develop a plan, what you do in case things go wrong.
Right.
Okay, so what I mentioned was that if you take responsibility of your own, like whatever you do in life, sometimes things don't go well. It doesn't go according to plan.
Yes.
Like I think somebody said
a lot doesn't go according to plan.
Yeah. Like I think Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yes. Yes.
And it's all about how often you can be punched and still continue, get up again and continue, right? And don't give up.
Right. Yes.
There's so many examples of this. I think if you speak to super successful people in no matter what in life, right, they all had their phases in life where things just didn't go well.
Right.
But they overcame it. They stood up again, and they kept on walking, and maybe they fell down again, but they kept on walking into the direction they wanted to go, and that's how they became really successful.
Yes, and I think a part of that, the behind the scenes doesn't always get talked about regarding what they needed to do and had to do, both internally in their, the fears and the insecurities that come up, but also externally in taking those right steps. So like connecting it back to sailing for a moment, it's like, did you put the oil in the engine? Because nature is a very harsh teacher at times, because nature doesn't give you a second chance. There's no dress rehearsals in nature. That's it.
Yeah. And sometimes you have a contingency plan. Let's say in sailing, if the engine doesn't work, you have the sails, right? So you can still go, but maybe there's a problem with the sails and you end up just drifting in the open water, and then you might want to have another contingency plan for that. But sometimes you don't, then you just go and you go for an adventure, and you see
Yes.
what's the outcome.
Yes. And it's interesting because I think out in nature also it's social programming. We can't say, well, we believe that this is how it is, because if the wind is just blowing at a certain speed, that's just what nature is delivering that moment. And
Yeah.
yes, so we can't fall back into, well, my title at this company is, or my position in society is this, and put our foot down and stomp it, out on the open seas. It's you either have to step up and grow and push through, but you're right, when it comes
Yeah.
to excuses, the ocean doesn't care about your excuses. The ocean
Yeah.
is going to be practical.
There was one thing I wanted to say before you mentioned, behind, often just see the successful person, but they don't see what happened behind the scenes. I think there's a great, analogy outside of sailing is like comedians. A
Okay.
lot of the successful comedians, when they end up on the big stage, no one ends up on the big stage. You don't come up with a couple of jokes today and you're going to be in the big stage, right? So
Right.
they were in the small clubs. They were in front of people, maybe 5 people, maybe 10 people. Maybe they booed at them, and they were throwing jokes with no one found them funny. So they
Right.
had experience, I think, and one day, particularly when they have hecklers in the audience, right? And how to deal with hecklers. I think that's just, that's like 10, 15 years of real life education, right?
And it is real
You
life.
don't,
Yes.
yeah. And you have to go through this in order to be, at the stage then where, a bigger audience starts to see them. And if you're unwilling to walk that walk,
And
right?
do the work. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then you're not getting in onto the big stage. So
Yes. And I think there's definite growing pains when somebody's got to do those small steps that somebody might think,
yeah,
oh, that's below me. But yet that's what
yeah,
builds up the muscle power and the seasoning so that somebody can step onto the large
yeah,
stage. It's interesting. One of my associates shared a statistic recently, and the statistic was that most financial planners do not last beyond 6 or 12 months because they forget to relate to their customer. And I thought, wow, but that's getting your hands dirty. That's when the
mm,
CEO walks the floor, because the CEO can't
yeah,
just stay in the ivory tower or behind, hidden in their
definitely.
office
Yeah,
suite. They have to walk the floor. And I think that's, even just circling back to the comedian example, when somebody has to stand on stage, you really have to connect with other people. You have to connect with your audience.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you
And
can't
that's
buy
also in
that.
real life.
Yeah, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Oh, like it's only in real life when people, when I coach people and they realize, what is their true passion.
Mhm.
Sometimes you also have to take a step back. Maybe you know, when you were after you studied business, you took up a job and it pays you good money and you adopt a certain lifestyle.
And I've
But
made it.
after 10, yeah. And then after 10, 15 years, you realize, am I going to do this until the end of my life?
Right.
A lot of people enjoy what they do, but a lot of also they don't.
I know.
And then you shouldn't be afraid, or we as coaches can help them and put out a plan. Okay, why don't you go back? Why don't you go back into the small bar and
Mhm.
try your jokes on 10 people and just build up something new? You can. Some of them they do it next to their job. Some of them they completely leave their careers and try something completely new, like I did. I was in the height of my career, looking after an entire region for the company I was working for, but I just wasn't. I felt I'm like it's not right for me. There's other stuff I want to do in my life, and I just left it all behind. But I had to take many steps back, in particular financially, in order to do really what I enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis. But this I could do until I'm 100. It doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
It's like because it's so enjoyable speaking to people and
Right.
helping people, and it also obviously it's also enjoyable for myself, to learn about others, and what they are up to in their lives and see them how they grow in their lives.
There's something energizing about honest conversations.
Yeah.
Yes. And so before we move on to the next question, what would you say your superpower is? And I realize I'm putting you on the spot.
My superpower,
Yes. Do you know what it is? If you're willing to share. If not, I won't.
it's like a lot of people that I speak to, coach, they appreciate the gentle pressure I put on them. Like there are quite a few, you know, they seem to tell me what they believe I want to hear, right?
Oh,
Like
yes.
basically, you know,
Yes.
once you start, you know, getting into the inner game, you know, you know, the emotional level, and you start asking questions, you know, and you know this is now getting, you know,
Personal.
I'm gonna this might hurt, you know, this might hurt, right? And but you know, I've been I had really a lot of good success. Not to come up with excuses, you know, somebody, you know, they start giving excuses. I can't do this, I can't do this. And I say, okay, let's have a look at this, right? Okay, why is that? And why is this? And why don't you do this? And then you realize it's just a fear factor. There's anxiety there, there's fear. And I help them. So this is like, I think my superpower. And I also, you know, I talk the talk and I walk the walk. You know, I never expect anything from anyone that I wouldn't do myself.
Right. Which is also really important that you bring that up, because coaches, if they're not doing the work, there's an energetic connection with clients that their clients can sometimes stop doing the work. And we might not understand why, because we told them, but yet if we're breaking through new grounds and we're expanding our comfort zone and exploring new adventures and taking new risks, there's an energetic immediate feedback loop from the universe. Yes.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. So you would say gentle communication style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for answering.
No worries.
Okay. So what do you think halts or stops people from adding a coach to their team, oftentimes for personal growth?
I think, or I feel, I know a lot of people, they're not looking for a coach. They're looking to achieve certain results in life, but they're yet unaware how they can get there. And coaching, let's say coaching, I think is fairly, I think in the US, it's not that new, but in the rest of the world, it's quite new. And there've been some really, really super successful coaches, and the whole self-help, you know, industry is a multi-million-dollar industry. But somehow a lot of people, and I think for good reasons, are also quite suspicious. You know, how can a coach really help me and benefit me?
Yes.
So I can only hope, you know, the people, also we spread the word, you know, through what we're doing today. We let people, you know, we expose ourselves to the people out there. We show them who we are and
give them a sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And spread the word, you know, and also through our own experiences. Like, you know, we spoke, I think, through email about, you know, how I got, you know, how I would have had benefited a lot from a coach in my corporate career.
Right.
And at the time, it just wasn't accessible to me. Maybe I wasn't open enough, could be, you know, maybe I can't remember, to be honest, if I was approached ever by a coach or not. But nowadays, when I look back, you know, there would have been many times. Maybe I would have left earlier. Maybe I would have, you know, changed career earlier. Maybe, who knows, you know. But there's certainly quite a bit of advice that we're kind of being trained, I think, after we leave school or university, like once we have our degrees, like we are not conditional, we're not trained that we keep on seeking, you know, a coach pretty much, you know, a therapist, whatever we want to call it, in our lives. And like we're basically just being left out there and say, you know, for the next 50 years, you're going to do one thing and one thing only.
Oh,
and that
yes.
has changed dramatically, right?
Yeah. Well, wasn't that the message though? Yes. I thought when I would graduate from Penn State, it was just going to be like this straight line until retirement. I didn't get enough of the memo that it was going to be like this. Yes. Yes. With the Mike Tyson punches.
Yeah. I have a very good friend of mine. So I'm from a quite traditional part in Austria, close to Switzerland, you know, very traditional people, really. So this friend of mine, he's got a PhD in economics.
Okay.
He works for a major company. Like it's Austrian based, but it's it's a worldwide business. And I like him really, really much. But he tells me every time I meet him, how frustrating the job is, how he hates the job. But what he's working towards is retirement, which is in about 20 years.
The security of the retirement. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, he would have enough cash. He could retire today. But he's very traditional. All his investments are into gold. He doesn't do anything in stocks or shares or I mean, nowadays with crypto, like the various types of investment, right? And he's at an age where he could still do it. But what he says, I'm going to go every day to work, and everything I can think about is 65 when I retire. And then I'm going to do all the things that I want to do today, right?
Yes, then I'm going to live. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And last time I met him, sometimes I try a little bit, to speak to him, try to coach him a bit, but okay, he's immune to coaching. He doesn't want it, right? And
the pride.
Obviously we can't appeal to everyone.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that think like this, right?
Of course.
And it's just a different way. And I'm not judging, right? I'm not judging at all. I mean, but I think he would be. I mean, this is where we come from, from even from my parents. They kept on telling me when I was younger, get a job, work until you're 60 or 65, retire, try to enjoy life in between those years as well.
Yes.
But a lot of our parents, they've struggled a lot in their life. So I think we are a generation that is, we obviously benefit from all the hard work that's been put in by our grandparents after the Second World War and by our parents. And but our lives are so different to our parents' lives, I feel.
Of course, with today's influences, and it's a different world.
And the internet has opened up so many possibilities as well, where you can do something outside of the traditional kind of office type work.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I think that there is so much pain that people carry around in their life, different degrees of pain, and they won't always be open to asking others for help because they see it either as a weakness or they're judging themselves of why don't they have it all together. What I find so surprising is how much people carry for years. And if they can meet what I call the right person at the right time and have the right conversation, how much emotion pours out. And that emotion can be 2.5 hours sometimes, because they've dragged it around. And then finally the swimming pool opens and it's just, they're so relieved.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that there has to be a change in the programming, because if what they're doing right now isn't working, then is the programming that they were trained with in service to them, or is it hindering them? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot that happens to us in our childhood, and without going
that's well-meaning.
Too much deeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's well-meaning.
Or like just adolescence. I mean, a child just sucks up all this information when we grow up, and it's like there's one type of conditioning. When I see parents out there and like a child is trying to do something. For example, there's a little wall and a child jumps, off the wall, and you see some parents, they encourage their kids to try out these things and experience, jumping somewhere and feeling these successes of doing that. And then there are other parents who say, no, don't do it. You might get hurt or whatever.
Scrape your knee.
You're taking away this potential feeling of success of the young child, of achieving, like overcoming a fear, and the intense feeling of success of doing that. Right. So there's just so much that happens in our childhood. And, obviously there's trauma work, which probably psychologists and psychotherapists should focus on. And I want to go there as a coach. Mm-hmm. That's probably for them to work on. But, you can, at least inform. I mean, that's what I do, if I feel that, this is going to go very, very deep, emotionally deep into traumas, I can also recommend therapists. We do have a network of people around.
Of course, yes.
Like in terms of other coaches and therapists, where because I kind of want to focus on the present and the future, and if it goes too much into the past, I'll I'll move that onto therapist work.
Yes, and referring it over. Although I do want to say one of the most amazing gifts that anybody can do in addition to coaches is just to be able to listen without bias.
Yeah.
Because in society, an untrained listener will keep going back to maybe themselves or what they know, compared to just letting the person get out whatever it is. And yeah, there are some coaching sessions where one question can be asked the entire time, and that one question is, what else? And what else? And the person, the coachee, can be like a deep well, because there's so much that they want to say. And when we live in this society of news, sports, and weather, how often do they really truly get to say what they want to say? Like you had mentioned at the beginning of our conversation today about like bringing their authentic self forward and allowing that to emerge. Yes.
Yeah, there's one exercise I'm doing with clients is like where you ask them for a solution to their problem, and they come up, and you ask them to come up with 10 solutions,
that's great.
at least. And
making them
you know,
think.
the obvious ones, the obvious ones come, you know, right away. But once they are at number 6 or number 7, that's when they go deep inside, and then actually I think comes out what they really want.
Yes.
So I think everyone can try this. You know, whoever, like your viewers, you know, if you have a problem in life, try to put down a list of 10 solutions to your problem, and think about what's number 9 and number 10. You know, is that really something that was obvious to you initially, or did that require a bit of, you know, going inside and really feeling how you feel about the problem and the potential solution?
Yes, because the answers are within us. Sometimes we might not know and we'll need outside feedback, but other times we haven't the answer. Okay, wonderful, delightful. In your tagline of coaching is an opportunity to go beyond the normal and experience the extraordinary, would you tell me more about this thought process of your tagline? Coaching is an opportunity to go beyond the normal and experience the extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, if I might reference back to my own life, you know, how I took up a job as a finance director and later CFO, and that would probably be, you know, for many people, they look up to. I mean, I had people looking up to what I've been doing and the career I had, and you know, traveled, you know, worked and lived in so many different kind of countries, and it was, for others it was extraordinary, but for me it was the ordinary. It came, to be honest, it came easy to me. Like I didn't have, it was like I was talented, I was gifted in it, but when I started to feel inside of me, and I said, okay, somehow there's something inside of me that doesn't make me happy. You know, I want to help other people. I don't want to be in front of spreadsheets all day long and checking. There was also a lot of compliance work, controlling in there. And I didn't feel comfortable being after other people and telling them what they're doing wrong all day long. So I started to look, you know, outside of this. I started to look, how can I move beyond where I am and really live the life that I want to live? Initially, I did it myself. Though along the road, you know, once you start asking these kind of questions, people start popping into your life, like coaches or like therapists or people that have done these steps before.
Correct, to help you along your journey.
To help you in a journey, yeah. And that's how we go from like the ordinary to the extraordinary.
Because then you start to really live.
Yeah.
Yes. And that, I just want to highlight something to piggyback off of what you just shared, which is sometimes people think of legacy as the traditional definition of property and financial assets. And I do agree that is a part of it, but there's another aspect of legacy that's qualitative, and that includes enjoying life and leaving a record of how you lived, to be a positive role model for others, to say you don't have to be the first that you know, leaves the mold of what we were programmed or taught. You can experience this, you know, every aspect of this world, travel to 15 countries, go out on sailboats and take chances.
No, you know, the financial security is important, right? To whatever kind of lifestyle you want to live, you know, there needs to be some financial safety and security. So that's really important to plan that out. I think I heard once Mother Teresa apparently said, you know, it takes a checkbook to conquer the world, or to save the world. Sorry, it takes a checkbook to save the world. So there's, and I remember another coach once told me, you know, if you let's say you are, let's say you give away all your assets and everything you own, and you sit on the street and you meditate all day long, you have no money, and this is like your contribution to the world. That's not much of a contribution, because you don't have the means to get your message out to other people.
Right.
So you also need to have the financial means to get your message out and have an impact to other people.
So what's been the go ahead, please.
No, sorry, please do.
What would you, and I'm putting you on the spot again, what would you say has been the most extraordinary part of your life so far?
It kind of started to look inside.
Okay.
Because I think, when everything I did in my life, just to go abroad, all these adventures, I wouldn't say I've been running away from going inside of myself. But I think there's certain aspects of it. Of course, when you're young, you want to have adventure, you want to go away, you want to experience different cultures. At least when I wanted that. But there was also a certain aspect of it where I was kind of trying to avoid, to go inside of me and start questioning why am I the way I am? And, what's the purpose? What do I want to do in my life? And it came to me later, and it came through meeting people and other people who've walked the walk before. And that's when I realized, I can tell you one thing, like when I was doing Ironman races, I think there's a lot of testosterone, there's a lot of emotion, like maybe mainly men, but I'm not sure if it's limited to men, but we carry a lot of anger around with us. Because we're not doing what we want to do. So we become
trapped.
Yeah, trapped. And there's some anger building up inside of us. So you see people, they're trying to release this anger in sport.
Right.
They do, and there's some people who do this because they want to do self-development, and they but they're also, what I felt, there's a lot of anger around in people. They don't have their life together somehow, and they go now into sport. They do like extreme sports, they buy the latest equipment, they spend their money on all of this because they're fearful of going where they really want to go. And that's kind of when it starts the inner work, right? And I have the feeling that I was there as well. I had this amazing corporate job, I had a lot of money, and I could have do whatever I wanted in my life. But then, I just didn't enjoy it anymore. And I saw, and this is nothing against Ironman racing. Everyone should do it. It's an incredible sport. And we know how healthy, sport can be in our lives.
Especially with obesity around the world. Keep going. Yes.
Okay. So, I think for myself, my, biggest challenge in life and my biggest contribution to myself is when I started to go into the topic of self-love, how do I speak to myself? Because I've been really harsh to myself for a very long time in my life.
Of course, right? And that's the drive that can propel someone forward. But at the same time, it's like, how many more times do we need to like whip ourselves on our back? Like, do it better.
Yeah. And then just be comfortable in where you are, and calm down. Doesn't mean that you're not doing anything in your life anymore, but what is it really that, for me, it was like, how can I make an impact to other people?
Right.
How can I make an impact to children? I was, fundraising. I did fundraising as well when I was in corporate. But there's so much we can do, I think, when we are energized, when we are motivated. And once I got out of corporate, yeah, sorry, I don't want to go off topic.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, when it's aligned on the inside, somebody is much happier and at peace. Compared to when you spoke before about specifically men that can do extreme sports, it's if they're trapped on some level or in some aspect of their life, and then they start to feel like a caged animal. And so if they only have one outlet, then that outlet is going to be like 10x, 10 times, because if that's the only treadmill they can go on, but every other area, it's like, if it's like 9 closed doors and then one open door, of course, then that one open door will be the only place that they will feel freedom until they're either ready to unpack and open up the 9 other doors, or if they can, and I'm going to do a plug for coaching, find someone who is a guide, such as yourself,
Yeah.
that can say, I've walked through that path and I can be your guide through the forest and the trees to get to the canoe by the lake, because I know what to look for. Watch out for that pebble, and there's, you know, some poison ivy over there. I mean, that's a metaphor, obviously. So from living in Australia, as well as the cities of Hong Kong, Shanghai, Paris, Vienna, Zurich, Bangkok, and Singapore, what have you enjoyed the most about traveling that you wish others would know?
I think the biggest impact it made to me was I met, I have friends now all over the world and all pretty much all nations. And one thing I realized is that us, like the human race, no matter where you were born, we are inherently good. Some of my best friends are from Russia, from the US, from various countries in the world, and I love them all to death, right? But if you look at the global political level, like how countries kind of are in competition with each other, you see how people are being politicized by their leaders. And that's a really sad thing. But what travel does to you, apart from the cultural immersion, I think everyone knows when you leave, let's say the US, you go to Europe or you go to Asia, your vision opens up. You are being immersed in a different kind of culture, and it impacts you profoundly as the person who you are. But when you go back home, we still are being fed every day, unfortunately, a lot of negative news
To divide people.
by
Yes.
Yeah, with the media, I'm never really sure. I mean, medias are businesses, so they sell what sells, and it seems like negative news sells better than positive news, unfortunately.
Right.
So I don't want to, I don't want to blame in any way media. So it's up to us as human beings to attract the kind of news to us that we also want.
And to be
But
critical
often we don't have it.
thinkers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, a teacher told us, always read. But I think in Austria were like 5 different newspapers, and they say read all of them, and make your own judgment on all of this, right? Because there's one which might be a bit more left wing, another one who is a bit more right. You just want to read all of them and form your own opinions. So what it does is when you travel, you meet people, and let's say an American meets a Russian, and you might realize that the guy is very similar to who you are.
Yes.
And you have, the same kind of or similar value systems. You want to enjoy life. You don't want to. No one wants to go and fight a war. I think, in my views.
Correct.
No one wants to go and does something bad to another person. But it's the systems that we live in and we are educated in that somehow condition us, that we think of other people as adversaries in our lives.
Yes. Well said.
Coaching, and also what there are big communities evolving worldwide, where people meet of different nations, different cultures, and hopefully we can grow these communities to have more people come and access it, so we can make the world a better place at the end of the day.
Yes. So that's amazing. I think what I'm hearing is that it's the ability to see others as humans that you wish that others could know about the experience of traveling. Because I think one of the things that war does with its propaganda is it makes others, if there's, quote, an enemy, a villain, right? The villain. Since the time of Aristotle, the villain. Yes, it makes the villain. So then we get to dehumanize and yes, just devalue them. But and so that's part of like the propaganda of that they versus us versus them, compared to when somebody can travel. I think if I can add to that, I think one of the biggest aha moments to coaching is, oh my gosh, somebody in that other country, that other part of the world, that other time zone is just like me. Holy cow. Yeah. Whether it's the Middle East, Asia, it doesn't matter, South America, it's just like it's so eye-opening. Absolutely. Yes. And I think it makes, I don't know about you, it makes me more loving to the human race. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, humans, we can do so much good. I think we have so much energy to be good to others.
Yes.
And unfortunately, often we're not using it. And don't ask me, I don't know the reasons for it. I guess education is a big issue in all of this. So I think the better we educated, also in emotional education, like empathy, EQ, not just IQ,
Yes.
the better we can get along as humans. I mean, I feel a European project like European Union has been a huge contributor to being a better world. And democracies, no matter where they are, also contribute significantly. And just hope that the nations, I hope that we never see major wars again in the world. But in order for this, that we don't have any wars, I think every human in the world needs to find his or her own place where they can contribute in a way, in a positive manner, right? To let that the energy doesn't become aggression or anger, but something
Correct.
positive. Because there's
Yes,
always a choice where the energy goes.
absolutely. So I'm going to do one more plug for coaching, which is coaching allows that energy to be redirected so it doesn't
Yeah.
become
Cool.
stagnant and just stay.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
somebody feels trapped or stuck, then it just magnifies and magnifies, and
Yeah.
then it's like the rat around the wheel, or the what I call the
Yeah.
loop
Yeah.
around the airport, and you just want to exit out of the airport. Yes. And so when that energy gets redirected, then humanity can create compared to destroy. Or what, another analogy is if you've ever had chickens, for the brown eggs, sometimes one chicken, if they see, do you know what I'm talking about? They'll peck. And
Yeah.
I would like to think that humans are much smarter than chickens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Compared to when there's a frustration of or a lack or a scarcity. Yes.
Yeah.
Because with the imagination within all of humans, especially children, if you ask a child to solve a problem, they could do your list of 10 in about 30 seconds or maybe 3 minutes. Yes. Yes. Okay. So what do you think is your expertise in being able to walk a client through to the next level or their higher level of thinking big?
My toolbox.
Okay. Okay.
And like, it's obviously,
And
there's
life
obviously the
experiences.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the experience that I have acquired throughout my lifetime. Also that I think I was never afraid to question what I was doing and look in my impact into the world, and also the ability and to let other people come and help me. It's a big task for a lot of people to go out there and expose themselves and be not fearless but be bold, let's put it this way. And I've done the work and I continue doing the work because this work never finishes. It's never done, right? But
Correct.
you can help the people that are inspired by what I did in my life, and I can help them to come where I am. And there are other people, they've done ways greater things than I've done in my life,
Right.
and they're gonna pull me into their direction. Um so this is what obviously, apart from the education, the theoretical frameworks that there are out there, and the toolbox. And one thing I think that where I'm really good, I always get this feedback, is my listening ability. um Although today it's all about you and me, right? So
Right.
we're not like,
We're chatting it up.
yeah,
Yes. This is not like an
yeah.
official coaching session.
Yeah,
FYI. Yes. Yes.
yeah. But normally I would, just sit still and listen and give a couple of inputs and comments. But normally I'm the one who listens,
Mhm.
and my clients are the one who would be talking. And I got, I just got such a broad range of experiences in my life that normally there's always something I can come up with, to give some input to anyone who wants it.
Right. Because you've done it. You've done the work.
Yeah,
Yes. And you're still doing the work. Okay.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Okay. So, what is the greatest benefit or strategic advantage that a coach has brought to you personally as well as professionally?
I think the biggest work is, or the biggest benefit that I got from her. Like I've been working with a coach now for about half a year, and she just, she also, she listens to what I'm not saying,
Mm,
and she puts the finger there, right? And
yes.
she normally this has got to do, with my inner critic, with my fears. I still have my own fears. There's she, and I mean she believes in what I want to do with my life. She keeps on holding up a sign saying, this is where you want to go.
Right.
And to talk about the emotions inside of me that are connect with certain actions in my life. And she's just the best. And I spoke to various coaches on this topic. She's just the best in really pinpointing, and it hurts, but it also doesn't hurt. Um, it's because she puts it just so well, and she recognizes me, and what's going on inside of me, that I'm willing to open up to her
And grow.
and come out and work on it, and go beyond my own limitations, and my self-set limitations, and really break up the chains and just move into the direction I want to go in my life.
Right.
um and yeah, and I mean it's amazing when you start opening to the coaching world, and you can get um different people into your life that help you to go beyond your own limitations, or I mean the limitations you set on yourself.
Mhm. Good, good. Yeah, I like what you said about that she could put kind of like the finger right on where the what she is seeing by what you're sometimes not saying,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it takes courage. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. And final question, what would you like your legacy to be? And how do you think you're defining, developing, and executing it today?
I think like many people, I would just like to have a positive impact on as many people as I can, and be a good role model for people. I have like this dream, this vision of, I build up something here in Greece, maybe on an island, a kind of a house, almost like a farm type, where people can come, they can feel liberated. Like there's no rules. Like people, they can paint, they can play the music, they can dance, they can cook. It's like a joint community of people that do good.
Mhm.
Including, I was thinking maybe, maybe even adopt a couple of kids, just because I have the ability to provide, I think, a good future for them.
Right.
And nowadays you meet people, they say they don't want to have any kids anymore because they feel in growing up in today's world, it's like the world is so terrible that they want to put kids into the world. I said, no, come on, there's just so many opportunities, there's so much good we can create as humans.
Right.
And we who have realized the positive impact we can have on others, we should be putting kids into the world, and give them our values, and make sure that they carry our visions forward. Obviously, it's up to them, but at least we can try to transfer that value to them. So with everyone, I think there was I read recently an article where a sociologist said that even the most introverted of us will influence about 10,000 people in our lives.
Oh, wow. I'm an
And
introvert. That's good to know. Okay.
are you sure?
That's
So
good. That's a good number. Okay. I now know the target number. Okay.
so I'm trying, whenever, when I'm going, there was something that happened to me yesterday. I was at the supermarket, in a local supermarket, and somebody, like, at the moment, because they only allow a certain queue outside of the supermarket, and somebody bought like a big box of, I don't know what was inside the box, and she was trying to navigate through this queue, and she was kept on hitting people, and the side, like this is kind of a sidewalk there, and no one was just going there. So I just went from the back of the queue to the front of the queue. I took the box and I carried it to the end of the queue so she wouldn't hit any people anymore.
Right.
So I'm trying just to be a positive force,
Right.
positive influence to people, be a good role model, and hopefully have a positive impact in the world. What I imagine is like the day when I die, and
Mhm.
I'm sure that's gonna be after I'm 100.
Yes, yes, of course, yes.
So,
So you live the full life.
yeah. And I just want it to be a big party, you know, all the people that I had a positive influence in my life, that they come
Mhm.
and they party, you know, what we have created together. And if that's, you know, the end of my life, then I would be super duper happy.
And the celebration.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, we celebrated life. We were good, you know, positive impact on people. And I think that's as much as, you know, you can do.
Well, that's a beautiful legacy. So thank you so much for taking the time today to be so transparent. And I love the legacy that you have. And I think that you're defining it today by your values around fairness and truth and just stewardship and contribution. And it's amazing. And I think you're also developing your legacy today by your actions of working with other coaches and inviting clients on sailing trips, you know, in the Mediterranean, and you're executing it in real time, no matter how scary it might be or what you have to work through in the inner world with fears and insecurities. You're doing it, and I think that is what counts.
Thanks so much, Angeline. I mean, you know, I'm a great fan of your work,
Thank you.
and I really look forward to following you, you know, over the years to come. I think there's a lot in there for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And
Okay.
thanks for coming into my life as well. Yeah.
This has been so much fun. And I just want to say that I hope that others will reflect on this conversation and think about what next steps you can take when it comes to defining, developing, executing your legacy, and also realizing that there are resources in this world beyond technology of live human beings that are willing and able to help you through to your goal and to your vision. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Angelina.